Hi, this is Grace chatting, and I'm the founder of Relationship Academy, and I just want to welcome you today. We're going to look at relationship mastery, and we're going to look at the shift from being single to being a couple. So before we get started, switch off your mobile and Facebook and anything else that might be a distraction for you, and grab a notebook and pen, because I'm going to ask you to pause the video every so often and make some notes which you'll find useful. So one of the questions that people often ask when they meet somebody and they've been dating, they say, well, how do I know if this someone is right for me? So have a look at this lovely apartment block and this car. What do they have in common? Well, what they have in common is that people choose homes, they have a home to live in, and they drive cars. And they usually know what make and model of car they want. And as far as a place to live is concerned, if they're going to buy an apartment or a house, they usually know what location they want to live in. They know whether they want 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, and they have a rough idea of what kind of place they want. But people, when they come to choose relationships, they don't seem to give it that much thought. They've got some rough idea of whether they like tall, short, um, you know, they don't really know what it is that they want. And, when people buy apartments, they have a surveyor come and do a survey. When they buy a car, they have it tested, and they perhaps have it checked over. But when it comes to relationships, people tend to just fall in love with somebody. They don't do a survey, they don't check them out, and they don't really get to know them. So my suggestion is that we consider what kind of person is right for you. Do you feel confident that you know that? And do you know if you're attracted to the same type? And if you are, is that helpful? Do you know what you want? Do you know why you want what you want? And do you know what to look out for? So a clue is to consider, what do you feel passionate about? If you're an avid reader, there's very little point in you hooking up with somebody who never reads a book, because the chances are, if they think reading is a waste of time for them, they'll think it's a waste of time for you too. Likewise, if you love hill climbing and surfing, there's no point in going out with somebody who worries if they chip their nail polish or if their hair gets blown about. So, what you feel passionate about is a clue to what it is that you value. So, here are some values here. There are many, many values, but just consider these, because it's useful for you to know what your values are. It's part of knowing yourself. And it's important, if you choose a partner, that they can share pretty well most, if a lot of your values. At least you don't want somebody who doesn't. If you love the countryside, there's no sense choosing a town lover, a city dweller. So for me, for example, I'm passionate about learning. I love connectedness. I love great conversation. I like honesty, and and I like freedom. So you need to stop the video now and make a note of what it is that you value. Now that you know from the other videos and this one, you know the messages and rules from your family of origin, you're beginning to get some kind of idea of what it is that you want. You're beginning to realize what it is that matters to you most, what you value. So now it's time to consider how relationships develop. So if we look at the process of how people move from being single to becoming a couple, so first of all, they start to date, and when they've been dating for a while and they get to know each other and like each other, and they actually don't really feel like going out with anybody else, they move to becoming exclusive. And usually in healthy relationships, they discuss that and they make a decision together that they're not going to be going out with other people, that they are going to just see each other. And often that includes a discussion and conversation about their views on fidelity and infidelity and faithfulness and all of those things. So they're clear where they stand with each other. So then, after a period of having an exclusive relationship with just each other, and it's different lengths of time for different couples, but eventually they reach a point where they begin thinking, well, where is this relationship going? Is it going to be for lifetime? Will we move in together? Will we marry? Will we have a family together? So at some point, when people begin to consider that this may be a lifetime relationship, they make a commitment to the relationship and not just each other. So they commit to each other, but they also commit to the relationship, and they take the relationship seriously. In days gone by, this is what would have been called an engagement. So that period of commitment or engagement goes on for a time, and when they've got to know each other even better, and they consider whether they do want to set up home together or perhaps marry and have a family together. So then they move to moving in together and or getting married and then moving in. Now, what a lot of couples do is they date for a while, and almost by default, that one of them starts to spend more time staying over at the other one's uh, home, and gradually they just move in, kind of by tacit agreement, but often the conversations that need to happen about fidelity, about commitment, those conversations don't happen, and they just go straight from dating to a kind of a mini marriage, and that is not helpful. So it's useful for people before they do that and find themselves living with somebody to consider, well, what is it that you want? What kind of person do you like? What characteristics do you like and dislike about somebody? What kind of person brings out the best in you? So stop and think about, and stop the video and write down a profile of what is it that you want in a partner. Do you want to, think about what age range, what status, what lifestyle you want them to be having. Do you want them to be debt free? Do you want them to be addiction free? Do you want them to be sociable? Do you want them to be professionals? Do you want them to be employed? Is it okay if they're unemployed? Is it okay if they're smokers? So think about all these things that you want and what kind of a person you want, because do you know what? Psychopaths can be very, very charming when you first meet them. And you need to be very clear what it is that you want and how you're going to find out what kind of person it is. So you need to become the chooser in the relationship. If your other relationships were, if you didn't actually choose them, if you kind of just drifted into a relationship with somebody who invited you out and took the initiative, and that's not really a good idea. So the characteristics of a chooser are that they're positive, they're creative, they take risks, they don't play safe all the time. They're quite assertive. They are open and honest and speak out and communicate clearly and honestly. They're proactive. They get out there. They're not sat kind of thinking that a wonderful relationship is just going to drop in their lap while they stay at home watching the telly. They have vision about what kind of relationship they want and how they want that relationship to proceed. And they assume abundance. They don't go around telling themselves, oh, I'll never meet anybody. They assume that there is somebody with all the characteristics that they're looking for, and not just one somebody, but a number of somebodies out there who would be right for them. And so they're out there in the world getting on with their lives, becoming more of who they are. And as they become more they attract the kind of person who's right for them. And now looking at connection, um, what you need to have to move from single to couple is to be able to connect with somebody. Now, that is a whole area on its own, and if you want to find out more about the connection techniques, I suggest that you search YouTube for Grace Chatting and check out my videos on connection. But a starting point is that you are present for your partner or potential partner when you're with them. Don't sit with your mobile texting other people and looking all around the place and talking to friends and other folk. Pay attention to the person you're with. Make eye contact with them. Listen to what they're saying. Show an interest in them. Be attentive. Ask them questions, get to know them. And now that you know about messages and rules and how that forms a person's operating system, ask them about what was it like for them growing up in their family. And that will give you useful information. But showing an interest in somebody, being curious about them, is an attractive thing, but also it helps to form connection. And chemistry is something else, and it's really nice and it's lovely, you know, attraction creates that buzz and that spark. But a lot of people, and mostly those who finish up divorced, use chemistry as the indicator that a relationship's right for them. But actually, you know, a woman called Helen Fisher wrote a great book called The Anatomy of Love, and it outlines all the chemical reactions that go on in your body in response to being attracted to somebody. And it's very powerful. We produce oxytocin, which is what mothers and babies produce, which bonds them together. Now, if you get too physical with somebody before you get to know them, then you'll be flooded with these chemicals, and you know, anything that you find out about them will be seen through rose-colored spectacles. So be very careful about making chemistry your main criteria for moving into a lifetime relationship with somebody. A very good model is a relationship attachment model, which was created by a chap called John Van Epp. And he identified 5 domains of attachment. It was to know somebody, to trust them, to rely on them, to be able to commit to them, and touch. And these are all aspects of forming attachment. And fundamentally, what he was saying was that you can't know if you can trust somebody if you don't know them. And you don't know if you can rely on them if you don't know if you can trust them. And you can't commit to them if you don't know if you can rely on them or trust them. And so you must know somebody, you know, and learn to trust them and learn to know, can you rely on them, and then commit to them before you get into a very full-on physical relationship with them. Now, these are just some of the aspects of how you shift from being a single person dating to becoming a couple. And I hope that you find that useful, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye now. Your comments are very welcome, and email me at grace@relationshipacademy.co.uk. Bye now.